We're taught from day one that the absolute secret to success is setting massive, audacious goals. Like, you want to win a championship, you visualize the trophy, you set the goal.
Right.
You want to build $1 million business, or maybe just finally ace your final exams, you set the goal. But we're starting this deep dive today with a glaring contradiction from our sources, and honestly, it completely shattered how I view success.
It really is a paradigm shift.
It goes like this. Winners and losers have the exact same goals.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant observation, because it forces you to completely reevaluate the mechanics of achievement. Like, think about the reality of any competition.
Okay, yeah.
Every single athlete standing on the starting line at the Olympics wants the gold medal.
Yeah.
Every entrepreneur launching a startup is, aiming for a lucrative exit. The intention is identical across the board.
So wait, if the people who win and the people who lose want the exact same outcome, then the goal itself can't possibly be the variable that differentiates success from failure. The goal is just like a universal constant.
Precisely. The goal is merely the direction you're pointing your ship. It's the underlying system, so the daily habits and automated behaviors, that actually provides the engine to move you forward.
Right.
If you completely ignored your goals and focused solely on your system, you'd still produce results.
Yeah.
But if you focus only on the goal without a reliable system,
You just stay stagnant.
you remain entirely stagnant. Yeah.
So when you look at this massive stack of sources we're diving into today, we've got decades of behavioral psychology, executive notes, and comprehensive breakdowns of James Clear's framework in Atomic Habits. The overarching mission becomes remarkably clear.
Very clear.
Whether you are a professional trying to climb the ladder, an entrepreneur, a student with a heavy course load, or just someone endlessly curious about human optimization, we are going to extract the core mechanisms of behavior change. The objective is to give you a complete, actionable system.
Yeah. To build incredibly strong good habits and dismantle the bad ones.
Exactly. And the best part, we're looking at how to do this without ever relying on sheer willpower.
Which is key, because willpower is a terrible strategy. It's fundamentally finite. It's a biological resource that depletes as the day goes on.
Oh, for sure. You're exhausted by 5 p.m.
Right. Systems, however, do not rely on willpower. Systems rely on the mathematical principle of compounding. And to truly grasp how systems eclipse goals, we have to look at the mechanics of marginal gains.
Yes, the British cycling team example.
Yes, the sources highlight this phenomenal historical case study. For nearly 100 years, British riders were, well, the definition of mediocrity.
Since the modern Olympic Games began in 1908, they had won a single gold medal. One.
And they had never won Tour de France. They were so historically underperforming that top bicycle manufacturers actually refused to sell gear to them.
Wait, really? They wouldn't even sell them bikes?
Yeah, because they feared it would hurt their brand to be associated with them.
That is just brutal. But then, they brought in a new performance director, right? Dave Brailsford.
Dave Brailsford, yes. And his approach was entirely counterintuitive. He didn't come in and demand they get 50% faster overnight. He introduced this philosophy called the aggregation of marginal gains.
So just breaking everything down.
Exactly. The core hypothesis was that if you broke down everything you could possibly think of that goes into riding a bicycle and then improved it by just 1%, you would get a massive increase when you put it all together.
So they started with the expected tweaks. Redesigning the bike seats for slightly more aerodynamic comfort.
Right, rubbing alcohol on the tires for a microscopic increase in grip.
Having riders wear electrically heated overshorts to keep their muscle temperature ideal.
But then they went deep into the bizarre.
Oh yeah, they didn't stop at the obvious mechanical stuff at all.
They hired a surgeon.
Right.
A surgeon to teach the riders the optimal way to wash their hands.
Just to reduce the probability of catching a cold by 1%. That's insane.
And they tested massage gels to see which led to the fastest muscle recovery. They figured out exactly which type of pillow and mattress led to the most restorative night's sleep for each individual athlete.
And then they physically transported those mattresses to every hotel on the road.
Yep. Tiny, almost invisible tweaks that most organizations would just dismiss as a total waste of time.
But the compounding effect was staggering. They went from a century of absolute failure to global dominance. Over a 10-year span, they captured 66 Olympic
They do. We are evolutionarily wired for an immediate return environment. We evolved to prioritize actions that yield immediate visible results. Finding food, of avoiding a predator.
Yeah, escaping the tiger.
Exactly. A 1% improvement doesn't register to a brain looking for immediate survival cues. I mean, if you go to the gym for 3 days in a row, you look in the mirror and your biology looks exactly the same.
Nothing has changed.
Right. So your brain's threat detection system says, why are we expending precious caloric energy on this? It's not working. Stop doing it.
We just crave that immediate gratification.
Yes, but habits act exactly like compound interest. The most powerful returns are significantly delayed.
So, okay, since staring at the scoreboard, which are our goals, doesn't work, and our brains are actively fighting the invisibility of these tiny improvements, we need to figure out what actually drives human behavior at the foundational level.
Right. And to understand behavior change, we should look at it less like a list of chores and more like a computer's architecture. There are 3 distinct layers.
Like an onion.
Like an onion, exactly. The outermost layer, the output on the screen, is your outcomes. This is what you get.
Losing 20 pounds, publishing a book.
Acquiring a new client, yeah.
Yeah.
The middle layer, the software running the programs, is your processes. This is what you do.
Going to the gym, writing 500 words a day.
Making cold calls.
Mm-hmm.
But the innermost layer, the fundamental operating system that dictates what software can even run, is your identity.
Identity.
This is what you believe. It's your worldview, your self-image, your ingrained judgments about yourself.
And I think most of us try to change our habits from the outside in. We start with the outcome. We say, I want to lose weight. So we install the diet software.
But the operating system hasn't changed.
Exactly. The sources argue we need to build identity-based habits. And there's this perfect example in the text about 2 different people trying to quit smoking.
Yes, I love this example.
When someone offers them a cigarette, the first person says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Which, on the surface, that sounds like a perfectly reasonable, even admirable response.
It really does. But it reveals a massive vulnerability. It's an outcome-focused statement. That person's operating system still identifies them as a smoker who is merely attempting to do something out of character.
Right.
But the second person, when offered the exact same cigarette, simply says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker.
And the linguistic difference is small, but the neurological shift is monumental.
Yeah.
They aren't trying to force a behavior change. Their behavior is simply a natural, frictionless reflection of who they already believe they are. The operating system has fundamentally shifted.
Because you can't consistently execute a habit that conflicts with your identity.
You really can't.
Yeah.
Which naturally brings up the critical mechanism. But how do you actually reprogram that core identity?
And the text says you do it by casting votes.
Yes.
I found this concept so empowering. Every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
Exactly. And the brilliance of the voting system is that it removes the paralyzing pressure of perfection. In any election, you don't need a unanimous consensus to win.
Right, you just need a majority.
You just need the majority of votes. If you miss a workout one day, you haven't destroyed your identity, you haven't ruined the election, you merely cast a single vote for a different outcome.
The system just corrects itself.
As long as the majority of your actions align with the desired identity. The golden rule here is, missing a habit once is an accident, but missing twice is the start of a brand new bad habit.
Okay, wait, I have to jump in here because standing in front of the mirror and declaring an identity shift sounds a bit like toxic positivity.
That's so.
Well, if I am totally out of shape, right, and I haven't run a mile in 5 years, telling myself I am an athlete feels like a straight-up delusion. My brain knows I'm lying. So how does simply claiming an identity actually change anything?
That skepticism is entirely valid, and the psychology addresses this head-on. You aren't claiming to have already arrived at the finish line, and you certainly aren't relying on empty affirmations.
Okay.
The mechanism works in reverse. The identity is built by the action, not the other way around.
Oh, I see.
Every time you lace up your running shoes and walk out the door, even for 5 minutes, you cast a concrete vote. You are gathering undeniable physical evidence that you are the type of person who prioritizes health.
The belief follows the evidence.
Exactly. You don't change your beliefs by thinking, you change your beliefs by acting and letting your brain witness the action.
Letting your brain witness the action. Okay, that makes complete sense.
Right.
But this brings us to a massive practical hurdle.
Which is?
Well, if identity is shaped by our actions, and our actions are the votes, how do we physically ensure we initiate those actions in the first place?
Right, the actual execution.
Yeah.
To answer that, we have to look under the hood at the specific neurological loop that governs every single habit, good or bad. It is a 4-step process.
Cue, craving, response, and reward.
Exactly. First, the cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. It's a piece of information predicting a reward like, seeing a plate of cookies.
Hard to ignore that cue.
Very hard. Second is the craving. This is the motivational force, the dopamine spike, anticipating the reward. Third is the response, the actual physical habit you perform,
Eating the cookie.
eating the cookie. And finally, the reward, the neurochemical payoff that satisfies the craving and teaches your brain to remember the cue for next time.
So if we want to build a good habit, we have to manipulate that exact loop.
Yes, and that brings us to the first law of behavior change. Make it obvious.
Make it obvious.
This targets the cue. You have to realize that humans are overwhelmingly visual creatures. Estimates suggest that roughly half of the brain's entire processing resources are dedicated strictly to vision.
Wow, half.
Yeah. What we see in our immediate environment largely dictates what we do.
And there's a fascinating psychological concept mentioned in the sources that proves this. The Stanford Broken Windows Car Experiment by Philip Zimbardo.
Oh, the Zimbardo study is perfect for this.
Yeah.
It illustrates how visual cues dictate collective and individual behavior.
Right, so he parked two identical cars without license plates. One in a high-crime neighborhood, one in a wealthy, affluent neighborhood.
And the car in the high crime area was stripped of all its parts almost immediately.
While the car in the wealthy neighborhood sat completely untouched for an entire week. But then Zimbardo took a sledgehammer and smashed one of the windows of the pristine, untouched car.
Just one window?
Yeah, and within hours, that car was completely vandalized and destroyed by the residents of the wealthy neighborhood.
Because the visual sign of disorder literally invited more disorder, regardless of the demographic.
It's wild, and we see this cascade effect in our daily lives all the time. An unwashed dish left in the sink acts as a broken window.
Exactly. It's a visual cue that tells your brain this is an environment where we leave a mess.
Suddenly, there are 5 dishes, then mail piled on the counter, then shoes scattered on the floor.
So to combat this, we have to become intentional architects of our environment. We have to make it obvious.
And the sources provide highly actionable strategies for this. Relying on motivation to drink more water is a losing game.
Terrible game.
Instead, redesign the environment. Fill up 5 water bottles in the morning and leave them in plain sight in every room of your house and on your office desk.
Make the visual cue unavoidable.
Unavoidable. If you want to run in the morning, lay your running clothes out right next to your bed the night before.
There was that incredibly effective example noted in the texts about a husband who put his running clothes directly on the bathroom counter.
Oh, yeah. So he couldn't use the excuse of not wanting to wake his partner in the bedroom to skip the run?
Exactly. He made the cue unignorable.
I also love the strategy of one space, one use. Like, if you want to start meditating, do not do it on the couch where you usually watch television and eat snacks.
No, because your brain has already mapped that specific physical space to relaxation and entertainment, not focused mindfulness.
Right. So you set up a specific chair in a corner that is exclusively used for meditation.
You are actively linking a specific environmental context to a specific behavioral response.
I think of it like bowling with the bumpers up. You know, you are designing your living room, your office, your digital workspace so that the good habit is just the path of least resistance.
That's a great analogy.
You don't have to expend mental energy to keep the ball out of the gutter because the environment itself physically guides you to the pins.
But friction isn't just physical, right? Designing a perfect environment handles the visual cue. But what happens neurologically when you see those running shoes sitting right there in the bathroom? They're totally obvious. But your brain still finds a way to say no.
Oh, totally. You just look at them and think, not today.
Exactly. Because you lack the motivation. You have to actively manufacture the craving and reduce the mental friction. This introduces the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive.
Make it attractive.
Dopamine is driven by the anticipation of a reward, not just the fulfillment of it. And one of the most effective ways to manufacture anticipation is a technique called habit stacking, combined with temptation bundling.
Okay, break that down.
The cognitive formula is, after my current automated habit, I will do the habit I need to do. And after the habit I need to do, I will do the habit I want to do.
Oh, the sources outline a fantastic example for professionals dealing with administrative dread. Let's say you hate planning your week. The formula looks like this. After I write the agenda for Monday's staff meeting, which is the heavy friction task you need to do,
Right?
I will immediately go get a cup of my favorite expensive coffee, which is the dopamine hit you want to do.
You are neurologically bundling the difficult task with an immediate, attractive reward.
It's so smart.
Another deeply ingrained evolutionary way to make it attractive is to leverage our tribal nature. Join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal baseline behavior.
So if you want to read more, join a book club.
Yes. If you want to run, join a local running group. Humans have a primal, survival-based urge to fit in with the pack.
We want to belong.
We do. When everyone around you is executing the habit naturally, the mental friction to join in drops dramatically because your brain wants the social validation.
That makes sense. But even with a great environment and a solid temptation bundle, we still get stuck in the planning phase sometimes. Which brings us to the third law of behavior change. Make it easy.
Make it easy.
And this requires understanding the dangerous illusion of motion versus action.
Oh, this is perhaps the most common trap for intelligent, ambitious people.
Uh-huh.
Motion feels deceptively like progress.
It really does.
Motion is spending 3 hours researching the absolute best meditation apps, reading all the user reviews, and organizing them into a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Action is actually sitting on the floor, closing your eyes, and meditating for 10 minutes. Motion is reading 3 distinct books on the structural architecture of a novel. Action is sitting at the keyboard and writing a single paragraph.
Ouch. Yeah, we get addicted to motion because it gives our brains the dopamine hit of feeling productive, completely insulated from the risk of failure.
Exactly. You can't fail at researching workout plans.
So true. To force ourselves out of the safety of motion and into the vulnerability of action, we have to bypass the brain's threat detection system. And the sources introduce an incredibly potent tactic for this: the 2-minute rule.
The psychology behind the 2-minute rule is profound. When you initiate a new habit, it must be aggressively scaled down so it takes less than 2 minutes to complete.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yes, you are stripping away all the overwhelming complexity that triggers your amygdala to procrastinate.
So the massive goal of read a book a week, it gets stripped down to read 1 single page.
Right.
Study for 3 hours becomes open my textbook and read the first sentence.
Do 100 push-ups becomes do 2 push-ups. You are boiling the habit down to its absolute most minimal gateway action.
Making the activation energy practically zero. Okay, but push back again. My brain knows it's a trick. I mean, I'm not putting on my gym clothes, driving to the gym, and swiping my card just to exercise for 2 minutes.
Of course not.
I know my actual goal is a grueling 45-minute weightlifting session. Why would my brain fall for a 2-minute gateway action?
It feels like a psychological trick until you recognize the deeper mechanism of identity formation we discussed earlier. The text tells a remarkable story about a man who lost over 100 pounds, leveraging this exact principle.
Oh, the 5-minute guy.
Yes. For the first several weeks, he went to the gym every single day, but he imposed a strict, mandatory rule on himself. He had to leave after exactly 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
5 minutes. He would walk in, do 5 minutes on a stationary bike, and immediately walk out.
That sounds absolutely ridiculous to anyone watching him.
It does. But he wasn't trying to build physical fitness in those first few weeks.
Yeah.
He was fundamentally rewiring his operating system. He was mastering the art of showing up.
Showing up.
You absolutely must standardize a habit before you can optimize it. You cannot improve a behavioral system that does not exist.
That is such a good quote. You cannot improve a system that does not exist.
Right. By forcing himself to leave after 5 minutes, he made the physical act of going to the gym so incredibly frictionless that his brain couldn't invent an excuse to say no.
He gathered that irrefutable daily evidence that he was a person who goes to the gym.
Exactly. Once that baseline neural pathway is established, staying for an extra 20 minutes is biologically easy.
Standardize before you optimize. You can't sculpt a block of clay that isn't on the table yet.
Perfect way to put it.
So let's say you've designed your environment, you've bundled your temptations, and you've shown up and done your 2 minutes. You took action. How do you ensure your brain actually wants to repeat that action tomorrow?
You have to satisfy the final step of the habit loop with a neurochemical payoff. This is the fourth law of behavior change. Make it satisfying.
Make it satisfying. Because, as you mentioned, we are evolutionary wired for immediate gratification.
We are. The fundamental problem with most good habits is a profound evolutionary mismatch. The reward is almost always delayed.
Yeah, the reward of a caloric deficit takes months to visibly show up on the scale.
The reward of consistently contributing to a 401k takes decades to materialize. Because our brains operate on dopamine, which demands satisfaction in the present moment, you have to artificially attach an immediate, tangible reward to the end of a difficult habit.
Just to signal to your brain, hey, that energy expenditure was worth it.
Exactly.
And the sources offer some genuinely creative ways to manufacture this immediate satisfaction. Let's say you are trying to cut back on discretionary spending and you decide to skip going to a pricey happy hour with your coworkers.
Which is hard to do.
Really hard. In the moment, that just feels like a painful sacrifice. You feel deprived. But if every time you skip it, you immediately open your banking app and transfer $50 into a dedicated savings account explicitly labeled new leather jacket.
Or European vacation, right?
Exactly. The dynamic changes entirely. You get the immediate dopamine hit of watching that highly specific desirable fund grow in real time.
Sensory rewards work incredibly well, too. If you want to build a better habit of washing your hands properly for 30 seconds, don't just use standard soap. Buy an extra foamy, incredibly nice-smelling, luxurious soap.
Oh, that's simple.
The positive sensory experience makes an otherwise mundane habit immediately pleasurable, satisfying the loop.
Another brilliant tactic for making it satisfying is visual tracking, making invisible progress visible.
Yes, the Seinfeld method.
Jerry Seinfeld famously utilized a giant wall calendar to track his daily joke writing habit. Every single day he wrote, he put a massive red X over that day. After a few days, a visual chain forms.
And the neurochemical satisfaction doesn't even come from the quality of the writing anymore.
No. The dopamine hit comes strictly from the gratification of not breaking the chain.
It effectively gamifies your own behavioral data.
So, we have spent all this time constructing the architecture for building good habits, but we need to look at the other side of the coin. What if someone has a deeply entrenched destructive habit they need to dismantle?
Right. How do we tear a system down?
Exactly.
You implement a strategy of inversion, you take the 4 laws of behavior change, and you aggressively reverse them. To break a bad habit, you must systematically make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying.
Let's break those down, starting with making it invisible, which targets the cue.
Okay.
If you find yourself mindlessly doom scrolling on your phone or watching too much television, do not rely on willpower to stop. Redesign the environment. Unplug the television after every single use and put the cord behind the console.
Out of sight.
Delete the social media apps from your phone's home screen or put the phone in a drawer in another room when you get home from work. You are removing the visual trigger from your immediate environment.
Next, you make it unattractive. This requires a cognitive reframe.
How so?
Well, our brains associate bad habits with stress relief or pleasure. You have to actively highlight the negative consequences. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't just think about the taste. Actively visualize the lethargy, the brain fog, and the precise physical discomfort you feel an hour after eating it.
Oof. Yeah, really focus on the bad part.
Exactly. Then, make it difficult. This is about maximizing friction.
Okay, so if you want to stop watching so much TV, don't just unplug it. Take the batteries out of the remote control and put them in a lockbox in the garage.
That's a great one. By the time you walk to the garage, unlock the box, get the batteries, and plug the TV back in, the craving has likely passed. You've given your rational brain time to override the impulse.
Finally, you must make it unsatisfying. And the most powerful way to do this is by creating a habit contract with an accountability partner.
Yes.
We pay our taxes and our utility bills on time because the negative consequence of a late fee is immediate and highly unsatisfying. We can artificially manufacture the same stakes for our personal habits.
The text mentions setting up a contract where if you fail to stick to your desired habit, let's say missing a workout, you have to instantly Venmo your friend $50.
Oh, man. Or, my personal favorite example from the sources, you commit to wearing the jersey of your most hated rival sports team in public if you fail.
Oh, that's brutal.
Right. The sheer social pain and financial penalty make the execution of the bad habit instantly and deeply unsatisfying.
You are effectively taking the long-term, invisible cost of a bad habit and making the consequences immediate, tangible, and painful.
Well, we have covered a phenomenal amount of ground today, unearthing the true mechanics of human behavior. Let's synthesize this so you can immediately apply it.
Let's do it.
Forget about obsessing over your goals. They merely set the direction. Focus entirely on the architecture of your systems. Aim to improve by just 1% every day, trusting the invisible math of compounding gains.
Stop relying on willpower.
Stop relying on willpower and start redesigning your environment so your good habits are the path of least resistance. Use the 2-minute rule to bypass your brain's threat detection and master the art of showing up.
Standardize before you optimize.
Standardize before you optimize. And most importantly, cast daily votes for your new identity, making sure you never miss twice.
It is an incredibly robust framework for continuous growth. But, as we wrap up our analysis of these sources, there is one final provocative insight we really need to address.
Oh, what's that?
Habits are undeniably powerful tools, but they possess a hidden, subtle danger if left entirely unexamined.
A danger. How so?
Habits can unconsciously lock us into previous patterns of thinking and acting. As the text astutely points out, the world around you is in a constant state of flux. Your career demands evolve, your family dynamics shift, your physical body changes, and your personal values mature.
That's very true.
If you simply set your habits on autopilot and never periodically review your baseline, you might be executing flawless, highly optimized routines that no longer serve your current reality.
Wow.
So the ultimate question you must ask yourself as you design your life is this: are your deeply ingrained automated habits actually serving the person you are becoming today, or are they perfectly optimized for a version of you that no longer exists?
Are you optimizing for a ghost?
Exactly.
That is a profound perspective to end on. It brings us right back to the beginning. Winners and losers have the exact same goals. It's the system and the evolving identity driving that system that dictates the trajectory of your life.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Your homework is simple. Identify one habit you want to build today, strip it down to its core, and apply the 2-minute rule. We'll see you next time.